Hello everyone, Ted Simpson here, ready to show you another great video here. A great little painting that we're going to do on a 16 by 20 canvas. I do have most of my stuff set up here. I just realized I don't have my paint thinner laid out. That's easily remedied. So, I always like to show you, whenever possible, the application of the liquid white. A little goes such a long way. Sorry, there was a trash can right at my feet, threatening to trip me. And I'm just grinding this stuff right into the fabric here. Blending and smoothing all the way to the edges. And the corners. See, it doesn't take very long to smooth it out. Now I can already tell just by the glare here. Got a little too much. And I'll show you how I double check myself. I give it a light tap, a few different spots on the canvas. It's not super bad, but it's nice to have as just enough there, just as little as you need. You don't want to overdo it. So, I wipe some of it off, I smooth the rest out. Now I'm going to give it that fingertip test again once I wipe my fingers clean. Much less. Just a thin fingerprint there on your finger. Now I want to show you something here. I got out a canvas. It's a brand new one. I'm not sure. It's a fairly inexpensive one, but look at this. Do you see that? That little bit of a flop going on there? Well, I'm going to show you how to fix it. I didn't realize sometimes it doesn't flop until you start going on it there. So, I'm going to take this off, and I've got a little spray bottle, just plain old water, and I'm going to give it a little spritz just in the corners there. And in just a couple of seconds, it should be a lot tighter. Bring that right on down. Tighten her up. Hopefully I got it set in about the same position. I think that'll work. Look at that. Already. Do you see how that works? Sounds like a drum. That worked better than I thought it would. Didn't drop the canvas. Didn't paint myself too much. Good day so far. So I'm just going to knock the excess paint out of my brush here. And I did paint up my palette a little bit on accident with a little of that liquid white. Right when I hit the power button on the record button on the camera, I dropped the lid and then it landed right on my palette. So let's go ahead. Normally I flatten down my paint first, but I'm a lazy guy today. Pick up a little bit of this alizarin crimson, and let's just drop it in. I'm kind of holding it sideways this time, flat ways, not doing full strokes here. I don't want to accidentally do too much, but just these overlapping crisscross strokes, very shallow U's and such, and we work that in. The more you work it, the more it picks up that liquid white. Now think about that. The more liquid white you have, the more blending power you have, the more it will lighten. The less you have, the more you can work it without it getting as light. That's what makes this method of painting so great, the variation. No two paintings are alike, and that's one of the reasons why. Now, let's have a little bit of that water have a reflection in there, a reflection of the sky, maybe something like that. Just dropping it in there, basically horizontal. We'll figure the rest out later. Now, what the heck? Without, oh, one right there. Some of you are like, what the heck? Well, I have a reference picture here, and I noticed there was a little pink up there. So, coming up here with Prussian blue. Prussian blue. I'm going to go right on across, try to avoid that pink a little bit. Allow it to start mixing with that liquid white before I come down and overlap that crimson a little bit. Definitely overlap it, just a little. But that blue will eat up all your crimson if you put too much on there or work it too much. I tell you, I'm just going to leave it right there for now. And let's come in here, pull some blue here. Yeah, I overlap the pink a little bit. Not so much, just focusing on just the blue color, just getting some spread down here to give us the start of our water. Now, as you need to, load in some more color and make it as rich of a blue as you like. You want it a little bolder, add some more. You want it a little more pastel, a little lighter, almost a pastoral. But that's kind of the same thing, right? Nice light pastel color. Either way. All right. So hopefully here you don't have to pause the video. Just give me a half a second to prepare my paint thinner. And if you want to see the whole thing, I got myself a big old gallon freezer bag here. Got me a bucket. I take my screen, put it inside down here at the bottom. That way, you're not destroying the bucket every time you do a painting. You know, that Ziploc bag takes the brunt, and you can find those in bulk places here. So when you need to change it, it's not breaking the bank. So there we go. Got my thinner in my bucket. Got my bucket on my shelf here. Got my dirty brush into the bucket. And I tap and swirl and swish and swirl. If you saw my Nature's Brush Basics video on cleaning brushes, I should go through the whole process there. Clean. All right, so we'd always like to make sure we get all that paint thinner out, so give it a good squeeze and a stir into a paper towel just to make sure that it's dry. And then let's blend and soften right where the pink and the blue meet. Yeah, something like that. I've already softened that pink enough when I went over it, so you don't have to go over it anymore unless you feel the need. Look at that. Simple, simple, simple. And for the water, I once watched Bob do this. He kind of brushed from the middle out a little bit. Or you can just pull across. It doesn't really matter. If you want to keep that color a little truer, like if you're using yellows and blues here and you didn't want to make green, you can soften the yellows first and then soften the blue. That's kind of what I did there. Except with pink and blue. Who knows how much of this we're really going to see. I'm going to just work it a little bit more and look how much it softens and starts to kind of mellow out. Alrighty. Let us take, I'm going to take a 1-inch brush here. And we're going to put in some cloud forms here. So I've got my titanium white. This is a fresh tube. I just broke this open last night. getting some color up in there, pulling it through, tapping it. Don't just want it on the outside. Go ahead and work it in a little bit. Okay, plenty of color. And we tap. Get it off the brush and leave it alone. Maybe another one. Trying to find a certain angle here. You know, you can have them be a little flatter. But I'm just trying to get the paint off the brush. Tell you what, I come up here and just with that whisper touch, very lightly go over it. Keep that brush moving. Hit it with the lightest possible touch, or else that cloud will just disappear on you. I always have these caveats, you know. Maybe you want those clouds to disappear or be a little bit softer. Well, go ahead and hit it. Watch it disappear on you. If you want it to stay and be nice contrasted against the colors, don't work it so much. Maybe something like that. I don't even know what's going to happen here. I'm just kind of doing it. I got a bit of a glare from the lights, so I'm like, can I even see that? I have to step back a little bit. There we go. So often I get students wanting to go over it again, and if you want to go over it again, great, get that color off. Try not to overwork it. You kind of get diminishing returns here once these colors start mixing with the liquid white and the sky colors. Doesn't quite work the same. The more you mess with it, the soupier it will get. Okay, hopefully I got 2 clean fingers here. I'm going to take my hat off here because already I'm feeling a little bit of a... Oh, you guys are putting me to work. I'm sweating here. There we go. So, got the sky in, got the clouds in. Looks like we're going to be working on a big old mountain here today. So, where's my paper towel? I gotta get that over here. Let's go ahead and clean some of this up here. All this stuff from when I tapped in the brush, it's a little bit light. Got some of that white in it. So let's go with crimson, midnight black, and a little bit of brown, and a little bit of that Prussian blue. That big old mountain mix color, red, black, brown, and blue. What are we going to get? Well, I used a lot of crimson, so it's going to stay a little to the red side unless I change up the proportions here. Maybe even a little bit more blue. There we go. Ooh, that's dark and dull now. If you're unsure what the color is, take a little bit of your white, take a little bit of your color, and just sort of moosh them together. Look at that. Nice dark color. But don't put that back into your pile. That's just for testing purposes. Get rid of it. Alright, so I'm going to take some of that dark, dull, brownish plum, cut off my roll of paint, and let's make up a big old mountain here today. Something like this. It's got a tall peak there. And just pushing this right into the fabric. Maybe we'll have another peak here. But it comes right around there and it connects. Maybe, yeah, there we go. I didn't really want like 4 peaks there. Just sort of happened that way. Maybe 2 peaks over here. Look at that. Look how much you can change this, you know? I did live in Arizona for a couple of years. I got to travel through the area there in between Phoenix and Tucson. And got to see all those crazy eroded mountains and mesas. And you know, I was just watching a Western there the other day, and I think that might have been more Utah type mountains. Hopefully you know what I mean. I'm not really making a desert scene here today. Just what those structures kind of reminded me of. So just pushing some of that paint into the fabric and then scraping off the excess. We'll use some of that color to build out the rest of our mountain, as you know. You know this. I'm not telling you guys anything new, am I? Maybe. I'm here to cater to newcomers and experienced painters alike. Hopefully here newcomers get something out of it, but if you have painted before, maybe you'll pick up another tip or trick or two. So, I know I'm not going to need all this white on my 1-inch brush here, so I'm just going to squeeze it off here, give it a little stir. Then I go into the paint thinner. That keeps your paint thinner cleaner, longer. Shake it off a little bit. Clean it off a little bit. Well, I do have 2 pieces of exciting news for you. I think it's okay for me to say. Coming up on September 4th of this year, or 2024, I'm going to be on the morning news up here at a local station in Flint, Michigan, ABC 12. So I'm just spreading the rest of this paint out here, just moving some of it to the left, some of it to the right, just trying to build out a basic shape here. That's all I'm doing. So yeah, I'm going to be on the news, and supposedly they've asked me to bring my easel, so I might be painting, either doing just demo by myself, or maybe I'll show the anchors a thing or two and get them painting. So just by pulling across, you get a little indication of mountains on the left, mountains on the right. Maybe if you take it and just pull straight down, we could make one kind of way off in the distance and pull that one in front of it. Look at that. We don't know. Just kind of playing around at this point. As long as you got some angles going here, you start to see some 3D effects, a little depth and distance in our mountain. Now, I'm going to clean off that brush here. All those brushes and pulls, all those motions there, pick up liquid white. And you don't want to pick up liquid white and then put it right back on top. Then everything just keeps getting lighter and lighter. So clean your brush. Now I'm going to create the start here with some soft mist here at the bottom. Just a little bit. There we go. Got a pretty interesting thing going on here already now, don't we? Or so don't we? Alright. I'm going to use that color a little later, I think. That's a lot. I made a lot of that. But we got to make up a little bit of a highlight color. Now, a highlight color, you could call this a slightly advanced highlight. It's really not that much different than just using white. I'm going to take some of my titanium white and a little bit of brown, maybe a touch of bright red, and the one color I didn't put out. Dark sienna. That dark sienna, nice reddish brown there. And we're going to be making our standard marbly look here. A little bit of dark sienna. So let me get all that color up and take it and pull it out. See what we get. He says. A little more red in there. More dark sienna. I don't know. Get some things going. As long as it looks a little ripply, marbly. When I cut off my roll here, hopefully we have a bunch of colors mixed up in there. So, starting over here, let's just lightly graze that knife, ever so gentle. Wipe off your knife every time here. And I'm just getting something started, doing a little bit of highlights first here. We'll go and play back and forth here. But one of the biggest things I see is people having their fingers out like this or putting their fingers in like this, and it really tends to push in when you do that. Try to have that so light in your hand that this is just grazing off. See that light little touch? Don't worry about doing long pulls right off the bat. Just focus on getting a little bit off at a time. Those long streaks there, those come with practice. Once you start to feel a little more confident with the knife, then you can do these longer type pulls. Okay? Getting something started there. Starting to like it. It's looking a little dark. Okay? So, what I can do just to double check myself here, get a little bit lighter stuff, maybe a little bit of white. Maybe a little bit more white. There we go. And maybe get a little bit of light stuff on there too. Just laying it right on top. When this dries, you can feel that texture. Still not coming out as light as I like. Maybe a little bit of the pure white. Just let it dance on there a little bit. There. Now we start to see something. Something like that. Now, often here I'll come back at the end and do the final highlights, but just wanted to see something a little bit snowy up there. And let's mix up a slightly different color, still in the same realm here. And I'm going to stop. I changed my mind. I'm going to get another column here. I got to get some shadow color going. So we'll take some white. Come on over here. And the Prussian blue. Maybe a touch of the black. Ooh. Maybe a little bit more black. Put some stark streaks in there. There we go. And let's see. I'm using the small edge of my knife. I want to be able to sneak some things in here without using the, 2-inch wide. It'll all happen really quick. And I said that we got this ridge kind of falling away off in the distance. Very, very vertical. Let's pull some of that down. And even up here, right there, see how the angle changes the whole effect here? Just gives it a very vertical drop off, doesn't it? I take a little bit of white, mix it in there, just a little bit of light stuff. Maybe there's a little bit of reflected light right up there at the top. Change the flavor. There we go. Now that we got that on there, we did the part that's in the back. Now I'm going to come in here and lay in a little bit of highlight right on down in front. There we go. Starting to see something there. And come back here and let's add in some shadow in here. Right up next to it and pull a different direction. That's what gives it those those angles that we like so much. There we go. Once you get into the open area here, then I can use the big side here and bring some more out. You can change the angle here and drop it in. I think that's in some pretty deep shadow, so we're not trying to cover it all up. Let some of that dark stuff remain. There we go. So, what else are we gonna do here? Let us, while we're here, let's get a little shadow in here. Using that short edge a lot more on this painting than I normally do. That's okay. Whatever you need to do, whatever tool works best for you, use that. Get to know these products here. Get to know the paints, get to know each tool and what it can do. Then you can kind of switch things up on the fly, you know? So, one of the things Bob did in this particular painting is he kind of created much more of a depth and variation to these mountain forms, and we really want to give a sense there. Something kind of coming down. Bit more in front. This a whole ridge kind of coming down here. But he did have some deep shadows in here as well. So we can always add a little to this section here. This kind of comes down and it's going to meet up with our highlight. Along here, a little bit of snowy stuff here and there. Right along here. Once in a while you gotta stop and just kind of remake your stuff here. A little bit of white, a little bit of that blue. Gotta make enough here, or else you're just sitting there making it again and again and again. There we go. Look at that. It's a little slightly different color. Lay some on wherever you think. It gives it that nice variation. I like that. Little streaks of little lighter stuff happening in there. I'm going to come back and let's strengthen this up a little. Let's give this a little more character. There we go. Something going on in there. Didn't follow it exactly how Bob did it, just trying to doing my little interpretation. And let's see what else we can do. Change this up a little bit. Add a new highlight. Gotta come back and give that its own little shadow there. Like that. I like that little bit of the dark stuff in these little hidden little crevices. All those little dark things happening in there. Maybe even a little more right in here. just to vary things up a little bit. Maybe a couple little dark things in this little vertical section. Those deeper shadows hidden in there. Play around, see what works for you. All right, so let us take our mostly clean 2-inch brush here. And let's just soften this just a little bit, following those same basic angles, tappity tap tap, sweep sweeps, create a little bit of mist happening here, just a little softness, we don't need too much. And then I'm going to blend out the bottom here just to make it look like the whole thing is just sort of floating. All right, let's see. I'm going to take a little bit of my sap green, some of that dark sienna, touch of the yellow, tapping, trying to find an interesting color here. And this painting is going to feature some grass growing up on this mountain range. Following the same basic angles here, tapping in some color. And you could make these things look like sort of a prairie going up there, or you can make trees. If you wanted to lift up, you can make trees. But I'm just gonna have a little softness here, just a little distance here. And maybe a little bit of, I got all sorts of colors going here. All these different yellows, dark sienna, touch of the green, heck, even a little bit of red if you want. And just change up the colors a little, wherever you want. Trying to follow the same basic angle here so that it makes sense. As I'm moving forward, closer here, it's a little bolder, a little deeper, richer color. Still get a nice sense of something happening here. And then light little sweeps. You can even tap it with that clean brush to dull it down and soften it. Take your time. Make it just the way you like it. Can't forget about this one here. Maybe a little bit more green on the ones off here in the back. Soften it, following that same angle. Swish, swish, swish. If it's a little too blended for you, you can just lightly tap it in, give it a little more texture again. It's up to you. Now, moving forward, I'm just changing the flavor again. Maybe a little bit more of the yellow ochre and green. Yellow ochre and green, just to have something new here. Look at that. And sometimes I put a little bit back here just to keep that flavor going. Don't forget to blur what you need to blur. Now, this just kind of comes up and see this mountain just kind of disappearing. Maybe this grass has grown over it. And that's how we get our change in direction here. This all just kind of comes down. A little bit more of the brown and green and all these dulling yellows and such. And it's just amazing what these little taps end up looking like. You know, we're making illusions here. Little things happening. And you can play around with this as number of times as you want. Add some, smooth some. Blend it away. Blend it as soft as you want. Trying to create a little schwoom right there. And then just a little bit darker stuff here. A little bit of the blue, maybe some black. Black and dark sienna, blue, brown, green. I can't give you an exact recipe because I'm kind of making it up as I go. And it just gets a little bit different here. We got some low-lying stuff happening here. I haven't watched this episode. All I'm doing is looking off a picture and kind of doing my own thing. Using Bob as an inspiration here. Not trying to copy exactly. Trying to find some similar colors, some similar sense of the scene. Something like that. So yeah, that was the one piece of news. I'm going to be on the news there. And I'm not sure if I can say this, but I think I might just. Come later in September, I am going to be at TwitchCon. TwitchCon 2024. Me and several other certified instructors are going to be holding a series of classes, and we have a booth there. So if you happen to be going to TwitchCon, send a message in the comments. Let me know that you're going to be there, and you can look out for me. I'll be doing some painting demos and helping out with some classes too. We're going to have some great times there. Look at that. Isn't that something? We got something going now. I'm liking it. All right, let's get into more of our foreground. Boy, did I waste a lot of paint on that highlights. That's all right. I'll use it somewhere, somehow. And if I don't, oh well. So let's get this dirty paper towel and let's buff up this area here and make a clean spot. I knows. Unless I was doing a winter scene, I'm not going to need this shadow color. So let us make up a nice dark color. I'm going to take my Prussian blue, all the rest of my crimson, my black. Let's take that dark sienna too. A hunk of that, all this other color. Let's see what we get. All we're looking for is a really dark green. So purples, all the purple created with the blue and crimson. Mix with the brown and black to get dark and dark. Bit of green for a tint. We got it. Lots and lots. Oh my goodness gracious. Let's get a fan brush here. Let's get a couple of fan brushes. Which one should I use here? Oh, maybe a small one for these trees off here in the back. I think there's a large one in there. We can do some larger ones. All right, so let us make some trees here. Just tap down. Lots of paint in my brush. Do you see how much I have there? Look at that wedge of color about halfway up the brush. And where that paint is, you can't see the bristles. You want a lot of paint in there. The way that we tap down deposits that paint automatically. See that? tapping with the corner and bending down creates that shape. And you just move that brush from the center outwards and it makes for a nice full looking tree. I was just teaching a class last night and just letting my students know, you know, if it's nice and dark in the center, it just looks nice and full. If there's big gaps here, it looks like portions of the tree are floating. Trees don't have to grow exactly upright here in the foreground. They got a little bit of a lean to them, that's okay. I'm going to drop in a couple here. Creating a little peninsula, kind of coming out from the side here. Little indications of trees here. The main ones, and then maybe we'll put a couple of ones off in the distance. Now this, give you a little better indication here. This little peninsula. And you can just paint it in, pull it like this, you can tap, it doesn't really matter. Whatever gets the shape that you want here. I like to pull it down a little bit lower as I move away. That way this looks closer to us than that. Before I go too much further though, I'm taking just the tiniest bit of the liquid white. And you know what? I think I'll dull it with just a touch of the brown. There we go, just to make it a little off-white. I get some right on the edge of the knife. You can see right where I created a little indication of reflections there. We gotta have this as our separator. It really helps separate the land from the water. Don't need much. You can overdo it real easy, just like that. But if you clean your knife and just saw back and forth, you can dull it down. There we go. Maybe a little more. Now, with my 1-inch brush here, if I just pick up just not much, I'm getting some on the brush and tapping a lot of it away. Just a little bit here. Just going to use a little bit. Oop, got to pull it straight down if possible. Got to create a little reflection there. There it is. Now where these trees are here, just a little bit more paint, maybe darken that a little bit more. There we go. Take my 2-inch brush and let's pull and dull that down, smooth it out a little bit. Very lightly brush across. Nice little reflection happening there. Okay. Look, now I found my small knife. I could have used that a while ago. It was sitting right there. I never saw it. Wacky. So let's take a little bit of the titanium white, a little bit of Van Dyke brown, kind of mix those together till you find an interesting marble. I call that fudge ripple sometimes there. Cut off a little roll of paint. And I put my little stalk up there and just an indication of some trunk. One little stalker. Then with my clean knife, I might just pick up some color and just make some little sticks and twigs back there. And there we go. I'm cleaning out that 1-inch brush here. I really like the look of this one. This one's been in storage for a while and it's got a nice bevel to it. The brush is pretty worn down it's like lost like a half an inch of length here, but it does have a nice bevel to it. And when you have multiple brushes, they'll wear a little bit different depending on how many paintings you do and what paintings you do. So have a couple of different ones and watch them wear and watch them change their shapes and, you know, change it up over time. You get some different results. So, doing our highlight color here for those evergreens, let's get some liquid white, pull in some of our yellows, Indian yellow, cadmium yellow, come over here or hook off a little sap green, maybe even a touch of the background color, and look how much that dulls it down. Want plenty of color up here in the brush, back and forth, tapping, getting a little bit on the tips there. Okay. Let's get a little highlight on these guys. Not much, light little taps. Even this one in the background. Not a great deal of detail on these. Might not be very easy to see, but it's there. There we go. Now, really without changing my brush here, I'm going to just take a little bit more of the yellows. Look what happens when I pull the Indian yellow, yellow ochre into it. A little bit of that dull color, maybe a touch of the green, maybe a little bit of yellow. Find the color that works for you. And let's come up here and just tap and create a little bit of highlight on this grass. The more you go over it, as you run out of paint, it will start mixing with that undercolor. So you gotta be quick about it. Don't worry about it, just get some color out there. Don't go over it too many times and that mud mixing will be kept at bay. There we go. Creating a little bit of grass down here. Anytime you like, you can change the color up a little. I'm adding a little bit of yellow ochre and maybe even a touch of bright red, just to say that there's something laying out there that gives it a little bit different color off on the side. I like it. Now, with my titanium white and a little bit of the liquid white mixed together, I'm going to get off a roll of paint. Not quite titanium, not quite liquid, somewhere in between. And let's put a little water line here, right where the land and reflection meet. I want to see a little more detail here. So having a slightly stiffer paint helps achieve that. You could do it with just plain liquid white. You could do it with plain titanium. Find out what works for you. There we go. Nice. All right, let's get crazy. I'm using Mega Brush. Look at this monster. And let's gather up this stuff here. Get it all back into a nice pile. Let's make some trees. Let's make some trees. Nice close-up trees. Pulling some paint into the brush, smoothing it out. Oh my goodness, we're doing it now. Mega tree, right off the bat. So right on up here, we just need some starter branches. Oh, this is a big one. Tapping and moving. Try not to go too wide too quick, or else it'll cover half your canvas here. And reload the brush often here so that it remains nice and dark. Now I'm working my way down. Now we can let it get a little wider. Still nice and dark in the center. You see that? That's where that trunk is going to be mostly hidden away. There we go. That was a big one. And he's got some smaller buddies. He's got some shorter friends. Just like me. I'm pretty tall. So my friends tend to be a little smaller than me. Doot, doot, doot. Look at this skinny little guy. Unlike me, right? But I'm tall. Now, if that's a little too skinny, it's way too skinny, and then it gets a little too big, you can change this up a little bit. All right. Business you're calling from, Bella? We got more trees to do here, so once in a while, I stand back and just double check that these are all nice and dark, and put as many or as few of these trees in as you want. Maybe a couple of small ones. There we go. Notice how I tap down. That gives it that nice skinny line there. That's the corner there. Tapping and moving. And then let's just say there's some land right here. Let's just swipe that in. Gives you a chance to paint your bottom of your easel there. Get another coat on it. As long as there's some dark color there, that's the background for our grass. Maybe. Ooh, maybe just a little indication here. Pushing up kind of gives a little grass feel here and there. All right, it breaks that barrier. Went and done it. I went all the way across. Whoopsie. That's our happy accident, right? I think that's pretty good. That's all I really need. Maybe a little bit more right there. Maybe something back here. Maybe a background tree. I don't really know. Let us take our knife here and create a couple of stalks on the top of these. Ooh, that one doesn't need it, it's already at the top. Then a couple little sticks and twigs in between these trees, see that? A couple little things happening back here. There we go. Let's take a little bit of that trunk color, and here and there, you really don't want to do it everywhere, all the way down the tree. It really wouldn't make much sense, unless you're going for maybe lightning came by and just split it directly in half. But how often does that happen, you know? Just an indication here of some trunk. There we go. That way some of it gets hidden up with the highlights and so forth. I'm going to come in here. Ooh. Always a good idea to squeeze out the excess paint before washing it. I say that a lot, but it bears repeating. Let's take a little bit of that liquid white, cad yellow, and then tint it with our green. Maybe a little bit more Indian yellow. Now this isn't necessarily has to be as dull as the stuff in the background. Now we're seeing a little more detail here. So let this maybe be a little bit brighter. Let's see how this goes. And which tree is in front? Do that one last. Tapping in a couple of indications of highlights. Starting with the corner of the brush to get those little ones at the top. And then moving using the center of the fan brush and tapping these little frowns, little clusters of frowns. Don't have to do every single branch. It's actually better if you don't. Moving through there, some across the center. I want this tree up top here, this tall guy. He's the one that's in front of all of them. Catching a lot of light up there. Now the sun is kind of coming from the right according to our mountain here, so I'm leaning towards the right a little more in terms of how much I highlight, where I highlight. A little more shadow off in the back part. In fact, if I dull this down a little with some of my dark undercolor, you can even dull down highlights if you want for that left side. There we go. Now I don't often do this, but why the heck not? I'm going to brighten this up a little bit more yellow. I cleaned my brush here and I thinned down my paint. Get a lot lighter color here, a lot more yellow. And maybe a spot here and there, you get a little bit of extra highlight on them. A little bit brighter. Just on a few. Even a couple on that side. Whichever ones you think are catching just a little bit more light. Adds a nice little detail there. There you go. All right, taking some of that color and now we're dulling it down a little bit. Got some greens and our yellows and even little reds even. Mixing it up here, getting up on the tips of the bristles, back and forth, and then pushing forward. We're going to create a little bit of grass here. Tap it out, see how it looks. You can always change it up if it's not bright enough. You can stop and make it brighter. I like that part right there in the center here. It's catching the light a little bit more right here. And as we move away, maybe it gets a little darker. Tapping and moving. Tapping and moving. Stopping and reloading as I need to. Gives you a chance to change the color. There we go, a little bit more of the yellow ochre. And the more I tap, the more it mixes with the undercolors. Get all these different colors in the brush. Gives it more variation. If it was all just one color, it's kind of boring, you know, a little boring to the eye maybe. Working my way. The more you tap and go over the same spots, the more it will mix together. And you might wish you didn't. We do call that mud mixing. Once you start just making everything all one dead color and mixing colors and colors together over and again, starts to create some blotchy looking stuff. Oh, right there, catches a little bit of light. Now a 2-inch brush would have made fast work of this. Fan brush would have took forever, like how we did it back here. So it's up to you. Switch it up, find the brush that works best for you and your level of patience. And I'm just going to let it get a little duller and duller at the corners. Lots of grass there, isn't it? Let's see about this. Let's see if I can take just a little bit of the liquid white, lighten some of this up, and just like how I did the tree here, see if we can't catch a couple of sunlight zingers. See those there? Adds something special, doesn't it? But if you do too many, you're at risk of losing it, losing the specialness. Not special if they all look like that, just a few. All right, so maybe, I think I need a color here. We need something happening here. So this looks a little boring right there, doesn't it? Let's add something to it. Maybe with a little bit of cadmium yellow. Look at this stuff, an old ancient master kit. Still has some good yellow to it. Ooh, I say that, it's a little stiff. But that's all right. We're gonna thin it down anyway. A little bit of the liquid white. And I'm gonna just gently pull some of this. Oh, it's gonna take a few strokes here. It's gonna take a little bit to melt that through that color. It's taking a while here, isn't it? I want to start seeing some texture here. Maybe a single drop of paint thinner. And you could use linseed oil and just, go over it that way. Maybe I'll mix up a little bit of Indian yellow to change the color. Or yellow ochre to dull it. There we go. Now we're starting to get it. Lots of paint up here in the brush. Come up here and just a light touch. Doink, 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 doink. Put a little bush-like object in there. I'm going to change the color and maybe we'll make a little yellow ochre one there. It's a little deeper in shadow, so maybe it isn't as visible. And this one over here, a little bit more to the green side, a little bit lighter perhaps. I don't know. Let's see what I get. Oh, this brush has seen better days. Maybe a little different color there. There we go. Push a little harder. Bristles bend and create these little flowers. I'm going to take my clean knife and some of these spots and scratch some little sticks and twigs holding those bushes up. And while we're here, I got all this color left over here. Let's maybe make a little rock. It's kind of just coming up out of the grass here. So I'm just spreading this, really just kind of like cake frosting here. Big old rock coming out. And maybe there's another one right here. A little bit different shape. More of a boulder, isn't it? Now, using, I'm not sure if I have enough here, a little bit of dark sienna and white. Let's see about just like how we did the snow on the mountains, just a little highlight on this rock. Grazing it over it, just a little indication of the sun hitting it. I actually used a little bit of my just plain brown and white. There we go. And let's see here, maybe just a little bit of that color on the fan brush here, and we'll cover up the base of that with, just maybe sink it down into the scene a little bit. Just by touching over it. Make that grass look like it's growing up in front of it a little bit. I like that. While we're here, why don't we just make a couple of extra little twigs and stuff? Thin down some of that brown, and maybe we got a little tree top. A little dead stick or something happening back here. Maybe a little guy right there. These can grow on you, I'm telling you. And once you're happy with the fiddling, I always try to give my students a little fiddling time at the end there. We keep moving, we keep painting. At the end, that's where you fiddle a little bit and make any of those last minute adjustments and so forth. So, that being said, I'm going to put my initials there and the year. Thin that paint down and it'll flow right over anything that you've done. Got a nice little painting here today. I'm really happy with that. I like it. Just for you folks here. And it was also fun for me. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, everyone.